Good morning. Welcome back to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading Deuteronomy chapter 24. When a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand, and send her out of his house. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. And if the latter husband hate her, and write her a bill of divorcement, and giveth it in her hand, and sendeth her out of his house, or if the latter husband die, which took her to be his wife, her former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife, after that she is defiled, for that is abomination before the Lord. And thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. When a man have taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war, neither shall he be charged with any business, but he shall be free at home 1 year, and shall cheer up his wife which he hath taken. No man shall take the nether or the upper millstone to pledge, for he taketh a man's life to pledge. If a man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and maketh merchandise of him, or selleth him, then that thief shall die, and thou shalt put away evil away from among you. Take heed in the plague of leprosy, that thou observe diligently, and do according to all that the priests the Levites shall teach you, as I commanded them, so ye shall observe to do. Remember what the Lord thy God did unto Miriam by the way, after that ye were come forth out of Egypt. When thou dost lend thy brother anything, thou shalt not go into his house to fetch his pledge. Thou shalt stand abroad, and the man to whom thou dost lend shall bring out the pledge abroad unto thee. And if the man be poor, thou shalt not sleep with his pledge. In any case, thou shalt deliver him the pledge again when the sun goeth down, that he may sleep in his own raiment, and bless thee. And it shall be righteousness unto thee before the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be of thy brethren or of thy strangers that are in thy land within thy gates. At his day thou shalt give him his hire, neither shall the sun go down upon it, for he is poor, and setteth his heart upon it, lest he cry against thee unto the Lord, and it be sin unto thee. The fathers shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin. Thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor of the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge. But thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee thence. Therefore I command thee to do this thing. When thou cuttest down thine harvest in thy field, and hast forgot a sheaf in the field, thou shalt not go again to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hands. When thou beatest thine olive tree, thou shalt not go over the boughs again. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. When thou gatherest the grapes of thy vineyard, thou shalt not glean it afterward. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt. Therefore I command thee to do this thing. Summarizing Deuteronomy chapter 24. Moses is continuing his farewell address to the second generation of Israel out of Egypt. Verses 1 through 4. When a man is unhappy with his wife, finding uncleanness with her, he can write a bill of divorcement and send her out of the house. She can be another man's wife, but if that man then divorces her or dies, she cannot remarry the first man. This is an abomination. She's now defiled. Do not cause the land to sin by allowing this practice. Verse 5. A newly married man is not required to go to war or to have any official duties. He can stay at home for 1 year. I'm just saying, with their own society, they're able to do things like this. That's why they couldn't remain under the rule of another group of people, because now they can't even offer that if they were to stay in Egypt. Having a year off to enjoy your marriage. Verse 6. Do not take grindstone, millstone for a pledge. So, millstone, the way that I was able to okay. I will just say, I don't remember how I got this, but I know that grindstone is uh, it's something like this. And this is for making items sharp, have an edge. But I think what happened was I saw this because I put in maybe I put in millstone. Grinding wheat, other grains. Okay. For making grain. Okay. Well, obviously I'm wrong, but the grindstone did say something about sharpening the edge. Anyway, the point of what this is saying, if you're trying to secure a loan, if you're trying to have an object for collateral, you can't take the grindstone or the millstone. This is something that was used to help a person make money. So taking that thing that they need to make money as collateral is not going to help you get your debt back. So don't take what they used to make money. You know, that's why it's saying you'd be taking a life in a pledge, because you're taking his way of making a life for himself by taking the tools that he uses to make a living. Verse 7. If an Israelite is kidnapping people to be slaves, he shall be put to death. Purge the evil from your midst. This is also purging the evil by killing, by violence. Even though Moses is the one talking, the idea of killing someone to make sure that that lifestyle or that decision doesn't spread is something that Moses is suggesting for this new kingdom. Because the reason why he's talking to the second generation of Israel out of Egypt is because this generation is about to take the land of Canaan. They're going to build a new kingdom, and it's supposed to be centered around God. So Moses is giving them all these laws that they should adhere to help their kingdom run smoothly. So kidnapping, if you're kidnapping people to sell so you can get money, that is something that a person should be put to death for. Verse 8, listen diligently, listen earnestly, take it seriously when these priests advise you on how to protect yourself against leprosy. So again, we have to remember, priests are not just priests, they also have to, they're also medical practitioners. Also, remember what God did to Miriam. And this is referring back to Numbers chapter 12, when Miriam was turned leprous after she was gossiping with Aaron about Moses' second wife, who was Ethiopian. So this is another instance where I was saying Moses is talking. Moses is 120 now. So we know that because in Numbers chapter 14, okay, I'm sorry. We know that he's 120 right now. In Egypt, Exodus 7, chapter 7, Moses is 80. In Numbers chapter 14, God tells Moses that because of the disobedience, Israel, all of Israel, ages 20 years old and older, will die before Israel will be allowed to go into the land of Canaan. In Numbers chapter 14, verse 33, God tells Moses that Israel will wander specifically for 40 years in the wilderness. So in Exodus chapter 7, he was 80. In Numbers 14, he's going to have to add 40 years to being outside. So now, in Numbers chapter 26, the population of Israel has all died out. The first generation of Israel out of Egypt that experienced the plagues, who walked the Red Sea. In Numbers chapter 26, that entire generation is gone. So 80 plus 40 is 120. So now we're in the book of Deuteronomy. We're on Deuteronomy chapter 24. Moses is 180 years old, or not, I'm sorry, 120 years old, talking about what happened. So even though Miriam did have to adhere, as we see with Balaam, the details were a little bit, they were a little bit, it wasn't quite the way it happened. God is not instructing Moses right now. Moses is speaking from memory. He's 120 years old. So he's remembering Miriam being struck with leprosy. And yes, she was banished to go outside the camp, but she wasn't just struck leprous, or she didn't just have leprosy because she wasn't following any rules. She was doing something that displeased God, which was talking down, gossiping about another woman who had done nothing wrong to her. She was just not the kind of woman that she wanted around her brother. So even though Aaron was gossiping with her too. So yeah, she was there. It was two people gossiping, but only Miriam, the woman, was affected with illness, gossiping about another woman. So verse 8, remember what God did to Miriam? She was struck leprous with an illness. So diligently adhere to priest's advice about leprosy. Okay? Verses 10 through 13. When you make your neighbor alone, don't go into his home to collect it. You can stand outside to let him bring it to you. But if the man is poor, don't keep his pledge overnight. And so pledge, a promise, a binding promise, a token. See, it doesn't have the, because this means collateral, but it isn't going to say that in this. So I think it might even say bailment in one of the pledge. You see, given as security for a loan, that's collateral. Bailing a person out. Okay, as securities pledged by a borrower. Okay, so what this is saying is don't take, if a poor man, and this is assuming that the poor man, all he has to barter with is his cloak, his only cloak. So you don't take a man's only clothing as collateral for a loan. I mean, you can't keep it overnight. You can keep it that day, maybe. Verse 14, do not oppress a hired worker or a servant who is poor or needy, whether he be Israelite or stranger. Give him his wage that day. So someone who's hired should be paid that same day. Well, I guess now we have daily pay and we have earnin'. So someone's been trying to read that Bible. All right. Also, making the person more miserable is a sin. Lest he cry against you, that's a sin. Don't make him more miserable. He's already having to work for you. Verse 16. Fathers can't be put to death for the children. Children can't be put to death for the fathers. Every person has to pay for their own sin. Verse 17. Give true justice to both non-Israelites and orphans. Don't take a widow's cloak for loan collateral or for pledge, because you want to remember that Israel were once enslaved in Egypt. Israel was once a slave class in Egypt. They were once being abused by another group of people. So God is specific, or God has told Moses, because God did command this, but Moses is reminding them, hey, God wants you to make sure you don't go around abusing each other or other people. Remember, your people were once under slavery. They were once getting abused badly. The reason why you're here in this state now, where you can inherit this land and you don't have to be under rule by anyone, is because God saved your people from slavery. So appreciate that. Appreciate that you didn't have to be in bondage and wander around in the wilderness, as long as your parents did. And you show that appreciation by the way you follow these commands and how you treat each other and other people. Verses 19. What is going wrong with my tongue? Verses 19 through 22. Do not harvest your field fully. Don't take all the grapes from your vine. Don't get all the olives from your tree. This is also a reference to Leviticus chapter 19. Save some of your crops. Don't harvest all of it, because some of these crops are supposed to be for widows, fatherless, strangers. You will be blessed. Remember to be generous, again, because your people was a slave class. Your people didn't have access to any kingdom. Your people didn't have control over anything. So now that you do get control over something, don't abuse your power by mistreating people, by mistreating the people that don't have what you have. Don't make them more miserable. Make sure that they're taken care of. That is all we have for Deuteronomy. That is all we have. Yes, this was Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 24. I am getting it together. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. I love you. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.